Are you confident in your offers but wishing more people actually saw them? If you're ready to get your voice in front of dream clients without chasing every algorithm, the Visibility Kickstart Fall Flash Mini is for you. In just a couple of days, you'll walk away with custom podcast speaking topics, a simple system to track your pitches, and direct voice messaging support from me, so you can start landing guest spots and planting visibility seeds before the year ends. No long program, no fluff, just action, clarity, and major visibility. You'll be ready to pitch this week. Spots are limited, and this is only good for October. Head to the link in the show notes, and let's get your message into more ears starting now. Okay, so you tried guesting on podcasts, and you're saying, this isn't working for me. This is not working for me. I'm going to give you a lot of fixes here. This episode is going to be fast and furious, but it's going to be all about, I've already tried to guest on podcasts, but it's not working. I'm not seeing anything happening. Here are some tweaks that I find as the most common things that need to be adjusted in order for this to really, quote unquote, work for you. And what I mean by that is a lot of us are trying to use it as a way to grow our business, be more visible. And if that's the case, and it's not just this fun thing you're doing on the side, and you actually are doing it because you want to see growth, you want to network, you want to do things this way in your business, you're doing things differently, which I'm all about. These are going to be some common things that I'm seeing that need to be tweaked in order for you to see that bang for your buck of your time being spent in this way. Okay, the first thing is that a lot of people try to do this quantity instead of quality. It's not about how many shows can I get on. There's a lot of reasons why this isn't going to work for you. It's quality. The alignment of that podcast and you matching in some way, shape, or form. The quantity goal is just vanity metrics, because let's say you get on a podcast and you get done and you're like, I did not jive with that host. Actually, judging by what we talked about, I don't even agree with them. And now you've checked their social media, which you should have done beforehand, or someone should have done for you beforehand. And you're like, yeah, no, this is not aligned. I don't actually want to be tied to this. So the episode comes out and you don't share it. And I can tell you firsthand from a hosting standpoint that produces their own show, guest episodes are so much more time consuming than just a quick solo episode. There's a lot that goes into it. And so the worst thing from a host perspective is when you have a guest on and you basically are vouching for them and telling your audience that you trust them and they can trust you, and then they don't share it. That's really deflating. And it's a good way to burn a bridge that you probably didn't want to burn, or it was very unnecessary to burn had we done a little bit of homework. And so being tied to that episode maybe might negatively impact you and your business, because someone might see you on it and be like, why is she on that? Why is he on that? I didn't think they were about that. So that's going to be a negative impact in more ways than one, right? It's seeing you in this light that they didn't think you were aligned with, and then also burning that bridge with that host because you're not going to share the episode. That's not going to work. So how do we combat this? Well, pretty simple. You hire someone like me to take this off your plate and make sure we check for that alignment. This might be the time consuming part that holds people up, like, maybe I don't have time for this, but it's very simple. It's just doing a little homework. Listen to their episodes, listen to their intro of their show, and read their show notes description and see, are you aligned with this in some way? Is your message, mission, values matching with this host in some way? You know, who do you think is listening to this show? Is that where your ideal client is? Did they have the problems that you're trying to solve? That little bit of intentionality when you come across a show before you say yes or no to guesting on it or pitching it, going to go a long way. So quality, not quantity, right? Another mistake that you can make is not having any thought about what you're going to talk about. You know, you accept a podcast interview and you don't have a plan, and therefore the host doesn't quite know what to ask you. And so they're just going to ask you whatever they think. And it might not be your expertise. It might not be the niche that you are in. And so now you get questions that you don't feel great about answering. You don't feel like the expert, and that's going to show and that's going to come across. And so having those niche speaking topics, which I help people pull out, that's the step one in my whole process, my 5-step process, because without that, the rest is not impactful. It's going to be confusing, honestly. And, it's going to leave the audience and the host thinking of you as a very generalist or not as that thought leader that we want you to be positioned as. The fix for this is just having those niche speaking topics thought out so that when you are booking shows, the host knows your niche, they know what to ask you, and they also know whether or not to say yes to having you on their show, because does that niche match with what their audience wants to see? That connection piece there is huge. So that's the fix in that is getting those speaking topics lined up so that you're not just getting on there talking about anything and everything that's not highlighting you as the expert. This one I've talked about a million times because it's part of my story of getting cut off in that very first introduction question about tell me who you are, who do you help, how'd you get here? This is not a time to tell your entire life story. This is going to eat up a ton of the episode. It's very easy to start telling your story. You're so excited. You haven't even thought about how this pertains to your expertise now and what's actually important for you to share. And you can eat up a good fraction of that episode. That cuts the time where you can be highlighted as the expert and really get into the value and the actionable pieces that you can bring to the show. So correcting that is practicing it, pulling out the pieces in your story that can quickly give the snapshot of how you got here, but also more importantly, highlights what you do now, not including all the pivots it took to get here. You might get into that because maybe that show's niche wants to talk and dive into those, but highlighting who you help and what you do now is most important because that's what we want to drive home to that audience so that that's what they're thinking. That's what the host is thinking of you when that topic comes up in conversation or when they think, I need help with this, they're going to think of you. Another thing I see people doing is trying to cover way too many topics in one podcast episode. You might think that you help people with a huge range of things, and that's fine. Thing is, though, in that one episode, nobody has the attention span to hear about all 5 of those things. That's how you end up being thought of as more of a generalist and not as the industry leader, the go-to. So we can shorten this up, find what 1 or 2 things, but hopefully just that one niche topic within all of that is so that we can dive deeper into that one thing versus covering way too many things. Because like I said, that leads you to be being thought of as more of a generalist. So that doesn't get referrals, that doesn't get new people. And it also is just too much for a listener to take in one podcast episode. It's when someone's going to start kind of zoning out and being overwhelmed with all of the information that you're giving. And it just kind of makes it so that you can only surface level that information versus hitting one topic that's more memorable because you deep dove into it and got in deep, right? So less is more here. We want to have one clear angle, one niche topic, and go deep in that. And that's how you get remembered. And that's how you start helping people and seeing people connect with you and the solution that you have that they need. And that's how you get people to take action at the end of that episode, come find you on social media, sign up for your email list, those types of things. And if you're realizing right now that your topics do feel scattered and they feel not refined or specific enough, and you're thinking this is probably my issue, I do have a visibility kickstart mini going on right now. Head to the show notes and you can check out that offer. I'm going to pull out your 3 niche speaking topics. It's not a full program. It's something that if you need something quick, you need to get more visible, but you need to do it in a strategic way. I'm going to help nail those speaking topics for you and hand that off to you. And then we're going to have 2 days of voice messaging where I can really answer any burning questions and really get this kickstarted for you so that you can become more visible right now. Another piece that can be missing or that someone can drop the ball is you get to the end and you don't have a place that's very simple and easy for the listener to go to and get into your neck of the woods, your community, right? Things that can happen here, we send them to too many places and then they don't decide anything and they don't take any action because they're stuck in decision paralysis. That is one. So fix that by having one specific thing, one free resource they can go download or one place to go. It doesn't mean you're not on multiple different social media sites, but pick the one that's the best for them to go to or that type of specificity because that's how you're going to have people actually act. You know, if someone has already listened to your whole podcast episode, that's a pretty great sign. And we want to bring them and invite them into our space because that's how we can nurture them more. That's how we can build that connection and relationship with them more. We fix this by making sure that it's one specific place. Just think about that. If someone listened to an entire podcast episode, they get all the way 20, 30 minutes in, they're still listening to your episode. That means that they have seen something either in you that they haven't seen in another coach, service provider, product that they've been waiting for and they're interested. And so we don't want to drop the ball and not have a specific action that they can take at the end. So to wrap this up, if you're not seeing the results that you want to see through podcast guesting, this is probably a sign that you have some things to tweak. Maybe you saw yourself in one of the examples I gave and you're going to take action and make these small tweaks and fix it. Maybe you're realizing that this is a space where you want to invest in a little bit of help. And maybe that's me. So I can take my 4 years of hosting podcasts and guest experiences that are upwards of 50, 60 shows just in 2025 that I've been on, and help you, coach you through what will work best for you and your topics, your niche, so that we can really make sure that every time you're on a podcast, you are thought of as that go-to expert, that industry leader, thought leader in your niche, because that's exactly what we want for you. That's what I want for you. Who's we? This is a one-woman show here. That's what I want for you when you're looking to be more visible in your business, especially as we get into Q4 here, ending 2025. We want to be top of mind come 2026 when people are taking massive action in their business. All right, head to those show notes if you want to get on that visibility kickstart mini. The link is there. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. All right, that's it for today. If this episode gave you a little aha, or you're thinking about guesting on podcasts now, I'd love to hear about it. Screenshot the episode, tag me on Instagram @Candace Dudley, and let me know your biggest takeaways. And don't forget to come back next Tuesday for another episode.